If you watched my last video on single-family home inspections, you already know that a home inspection has its limits. A condo inspection has even more limits given the way in which condominium ownership is structured. Buying a condo is not the same as buying a house, and the inspection process is fundamentally different in ways that catch buyers off guard when they're not prepared for it. I'm Shireen, I'm a licensed real estate broker in Chicago, and in this video I will explain what to expect from a condo inspection and what you should look for beyond that inspection. Before we get into that, I want to establish clarity on precisely what it is you own in a condominium building. You own the interior space of your unit, typically within its walls. The walls themselves, the roof, the hallways, the lobby, the elevators, the boiler room, the parking structure, the exterior windows, the plumbing and electrical fixtures in the common areas, all of that belongs to the condominium association, which every owner is a part of and which is governed by the board and funded by the monthly assessments. Each unit owner is given a percentage ownership in the common areas that corresponds to the percentage ownership in the association. If you need more clarity on that, reach out to me. This type of ownership matters enormously for the inspection because your inspector can only inspect what you own. A condo inspection will cover the interior of your unit, looking for anything that appears to be a hazard and anything that's not operating properly. This includes the electrical system, all the plumbing in the unit, any HVAC components that are inside the unit. In many condominium buildings, HVAC systems are a common element, in which case your inspector will not be testing those. Windows and doors in the unit will be checked, as well as any interior surfaces and appliances. That's the scope. It's not nothing, but when you compare it to a single-family home inspection, you'll notice immediately what's missing. The inspector cannot evaluate the common elements of the building. That means the roof, the foundation, the building's exterior, common area plumbing and electrical, elevators, the boiler or central HVAC if it's a building system, the parking structure, hallways, stairwells, lobbies, any amenities like pool or fitness center. Much of that is not accessible to individual inspectors, and even if it were, inspecting it would be outside the scope of their engagement because you don't own it, and neither does your seller as an individual. It belongs to the association. Here's why this matters. If the roof needs replacement, if the boiler is aging, if there's a structural issue with the parking garage, you as a unit owner are going to pay for that. Not directly, not all at once, but through your monthly reserve contributions or through a special assessment. And if the association hasn't been saving adequately for those repairs, you could be looking at a significant unexpected expense after you close. This is where the reserve study comes in. And this is the piece of condo due diligence that I see buyers skip more than anything else. A reserve study is a financial and physical analysis of a condominium association's long-term capital needs. It is conducted by professionals and it answers two fundamental questions. What major components of the building will need repair or replacement and when? And will the association have enough money set aside to pay for those repairs when the time comes? Let me break that down into plain language. Every building has major components with anticipated expiration dates, like the roof, the elevators, a common HVAC system, the plumbing stack, the windows, the parking structure, and so on. Each of these has an estimated useful life, and each of them will eventually need significant repair or full replacement. The reserve fund is the association's savings account for those future expenses. Every month, a portion of your assessment goes into that fund, or at least it should. The reserve study tells you whether the amount being set aside is actually adequate for what's coming. If the reserve fund is healthy, we call it fully funded or adequately funded, that's a green flag. The association has been planning, saving, and maintaining the building responsibly. If the reserve fund is underfunded, and many are, that means that when a major repair comes due, the association may not have the money to cover it. And when that happens, there are really only two options: a special assessment, which means each unit owner is charged a lump sum to cover the shortfall, or an association loan, which gets repaid through increased assessments over time. Neither of those is money you plan to spend. Special assessments can range from a few $100s to tens of thousands of dollars per unit, depending on what needs to be done and how many units are absorbing the cost. I have seen buyers close on condos without reviewing the reserve study, then face a 5-figure special assessment within the first year of ownership. That is not a situation that you want to be in, and it is reasonably preventable. How do you avoid this? As part of your due diligence on any condo purchase, you are entitled to review all of the association condo documents, and I'll discuss those in a separate video because there are many of them. In Illinois, condo documents are provided to buyers as part of the transaction. Your attorney and your agent should help you review them, and among those documents should be a reserve study. Look for it, along with the meeting minutes. If the reserve study doesn't exist, then I highly recommend exercising caution. So what about radon testing in a condo? In my last video, I mentioned that I always recommend radon testing in a single-family home with a basement or crawl space. But radon testing is less commonly recommended for condos, and typically only if it's a garden unit, a basement unit, which is partially below street level. Radon gas enters buildings from the soil, and units above ground have significantly reduced exposure. So if you're purchasing a unit that is below grade space, it's worth discussing any risk with your agent and inspector. Here's the bottom line. For condo buyers, the unit inspection tells you about the condition of what you own entirely. The association documents tell you about the condition of what the association owns and what you're financially tied to as a unit owner. Both matter. Don't just look at your unit inspection report and ignore the condo documents. Work with your agent and your attorney to make sure both pieces of due diligence happen. Ask for the condo docs early. Give your attorney time to review them thoroughly. Read the reserve study. Look at the meeting minutes. This is not complicated, but it requires intention. And intention is exactly what separates buyers who close with confidence from buyers who get surprised. If you missed my previous video on single-family home inspections, I'll link it in the description. It covers the full scope of what a standard home inspection does and doesn't include, plus the 2 additional tests I always recommend. It's worth watching if you're in the process of buying, regardless of the property type. And if you have any questions about the condo buying process, drop them in the comments and I will respond. Your questions may also inspire future videos. I'm Shireen, and I look forward to sharing more real estate guidance in the next video.